All right, welcome to our presentation of the data mining final project by Jonathan, Corbin, and Ronik. So your credit history and information is a big decider of your credit score, which is very important for many types of loans and can decide the loan worthiness of consumers. This data set that we evaluate holds credit card usage and history of around 9,000 customers. So we wanted to evaluate several things that could provide interesting results. Those fell into two categories: inter-customer and intra-customer. For inter-customers, we wanted to look at relationships between customers, and so we used clustering and outlier detection for that. For intra-customer, we were concerned with noticing patterns or dependencies within each person, and this was done with a regression. The data was sourced from a Kaggle set called Credit Card Dataset for Clustering. There are 19 columns with around 9,000 rows, each of which are customers of the credit card company. Here's a visualization of all 19 attributes. For time's sake, we can't dive into each one, but they're fairly expected if you think about the information a credit card company would collect on each customer.
So for data preprocessing, there were a couple things we noticed in the initial data. One, the minimum payments column had blank values in some rows, so we interpreted that as zeros. So we don't have them just blanked, and we also replaced every blank value under minimum payments with a zero as well to denote that the individual's lowest payments amount was zero. Also, many rows throughout the data set were zero as well, and potentially skewing the data negatively. We decided to ignore this because it makes more sense to have some zeros in some fields. For example, an individual having a zero under minimum payments likely means that they didn't spend any money towards reducing the credit card debt. And finally, we ran the data through a scalar to normalize it. We basically subtracted the mean value for each attribute and represent the new values in standard deviation from the mean. And so for outliers detection, we decided to perform a 5-number summary on each data column to obtain a better understanding of the data. It's a great tool to identify outliers, which appears a couple times in our data set. We discovered that the largest one within the data set occurred in the credit limit and minimum payments column. Majority of the credit card holders held a credit limit ranging between 2,000 to 6,000, and the maximum credit limit being close to 30,000. What's interesting to note is the average minimum credit card payment was around $3,012, with the highest being close to $80,000. And analyzing these two data sets together, we inferred that the account owners of these extreme outliers were either businesses, individuals involved in some form of business, or fell into unforeseen circumstances such as medical debt.
So next, a regression was performed between the 19 attributes. We used the sklearn linear regression package. The goal was to determine the strength between the attributes. There are some things a credit card company can control, like the credit limit, and we wanted to see the impact adjusting that would have on something they can't control, like spending. So the first graph shows the credit limit when the credit limit was run against the other categories. We see that the strongest relationship is with balance, payment, and purchases, which makes sense since if you have a higher limit and can spend more, you probably will. And the second shows the highest correlations when every attribute is compared against each other, meaning no columns are fixed. This yielded some obvious results, as you can see. So credit limits still proved to be the most interesting of the regression analysis.
So in terms of the clustering analysis, we initially plotted our data in a reduced space given to us by PCA, and we saw that k-means could work with its roughly spherical clustering shapes. And in addition, we had done previous scaling, as Jonathan had mentioned, which makes it so all the attributes are comparable and helps with outliers, helps stop outliers from biasing our results. In terms of model selection, we computed cluster quality with sum of squared error and silhouette, and we saw that 3 was the best result. And here on the right, we can see each cluster and the points at the center, with some of the cluster purple being above average and cluster 2 being below average spenders. And in terms of future work, we can join in new data to predict things like risk, create an approval system for recommending like who should be getting a credit limit and what value. And like we can look at more business data like profit.
Cool.
5:30 on the dot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. Shoot, I didn't go fast enough in the first part. Like my pace was off, so I didn't give you much time there. Sorry.
Wait,
bro.
we're still recording.
Yeah, I'll trim the clip.